Sup, my fellas, don't forget to leave feedback, and enjoy the story.
After the sad but happy ending with the previous chapter, we begin this one at a familiar place back in the academy. We turn to the professor's laboratory, under Mr. Banshee Morgue, where a familiar voice could be heard, asking about why the article she wrote isn't in the papers. Dolores appears, wearing her school uniform, her face angered as she questions someone. She tells them that she had only written the truth, and only the truth, and yet the article that only criticizes the Night Bloodhound gets put on the paper instead. It turns out that Mr. Banshee Morgue was the one she was arguing against, or as I would like to call him, Professor Snape. Hearing her concerns, he simply questions the Saintess if she was really asking because she didn't know the true reason why her article couldn't be placed in the papers. He takes it out on the table and points out to her that what she wrote was particularly aggressive against a certain organization. Hence, the Academy chooses to be politically neutral. The article was written with the words, "Are the Night Bloodhound attacks truly unwarranted? The darkness behind the Holy Quo Vadis household." She shouts back at the Harry Potter character imposter, telling him that she had simply written the truth as it was. But Professor Snape shakes his head, reminding her about how her own father, Cardinal Humbert, had denied all these accusations, and that the leaders who are on the exemption list also claimed that all of these facts she wrote about them were false. Feeling trapped by his words, the Saintess tries to argue that she had the records from the exemption lists that the Night Bloodhound had given to her previously, but all the professor could see was a list whose source hasn't been verified, so they didn't know if it was truly real. Hearing the way he kept trying to knock her down, Dolores finally questions Professor Snape about why he supports the Quo Vadis family so much, even asking him if there was someone else pressuring him to do so. Her words seemed to hit the target as the professor fell into a deep silence. His eyes were lost as he thought about her words deeply. Pausing from his seat, Professor Snape reveals that there was no need to lie to her anymore, and reveals that he had been asked to set the focus of the recent paper on highlighting the terrible actions of the Night Bloodhound. Even the headmaster of the academy was quite baffled by this request. Dolores couldn't understand it, asking the professor if her father, Cardinal Humbert, was really that powerful, that he could even give the headmaster enough trouble to be bothered by it. Professor Snape smirks at that thought, telling her if it was just her father, then he himself would be enough to stop him. A sense of dread overcame Dolores, as she understood what Professor Snape meant by his words. She knew that there was only one person who outranks Cardinal Humbert in the Quo Vadis family, and that was the Pope, the ultimate leader of the Church and the person closest to God. Thinking about it, she knew that even if all others were to fall into darkness, the Pope alone would remain pure of heart and righteous. But there have been rumors going around that say that the Pope's judgment has been clouded as a result of his age, which might allow Cardinal Humbert to use it to his advantage, controlling him to do what he wants instead. Pushing that aside, Professor Snape reminds her that her article is not fit to be put in the newspaper, as the article she wrote suggests that it is in support of the Night Bloodhound's actions. He even tells her to keep in mind that the Night Bloodhound is a criminal, someone who has been committing crimes lately. Keeping her words back, Dolores knew that the Night Bloodhound isn't a bad person. The ones that are truly evil are the Quo Vadis members and the demons that reside within them. She recalled what the Night Bloodhound had told her, that there were still demons existing in their world, and that he had been fighting all of them by himself, a lone warrior against pure evil, who is determined to carry it on forward till his dying breath. Seeing that this was a losing battle, Dolores decides to leave the laboratory first, but as she did, Professor Snape reminds her to not look into this matter any further. Thanks to talking to the professor, it made her realize why the Night Bloodhound didn't come out with the truth to the public. Even though he was risking his life to fight all the demons all by himself, even though she lost the battle to place her article in the newspaper, Dolores won herself a new sense of purpose and confidence, which is to help the Night Bloodhound. We now turn to Tudor, who is seen stretching his body as much as he could. The boys were walking back to their rooms as Tudor complained about how tiring it was to study outside like this, and knew that volunteering wasn't cut out for him. Seeing how they were done with volunteering and studying, Tudor places his hand on Vikir's shoulder, asking him if he wanted to follow the group as they were going to practice the game run flat. But our boy declines the offer, saying he wasn't feeling well and needed to spend some time alone. The words "time alone" triggered something in Tudor, as his face was filled with fear for some reason, while PG happily tells everyone that he was going back to his room as well. Tudor, in an instant, covers the little boy's mouth, telling Vikir that having some time alone was an important thing, and that they'll hold on to PG in the meantime. Even after seeing the weird reaction from him, Vikir still agrees with what they were doing. Alone in his room, Vikir finds it perfect since he hasn't gotten any time alone since his fights, to the point that he couldn't even unpack the things in his bag. Thinking about the previous night, Vikir's swordmaster rank, which he had reached with the help of the Saintess's blessing, had returned to its original state, high-rank graduator since that day. Even though he lost the swordmaster rank, Vikir still felt great. He had gotten the feeling of what it was like as a swordmaster, which was good enough for our boy. Rummaging through the bag, Vikir still had the best thing he had gotten from the fight, which was the thing he had taken while fighting Dantalion's bodyguards. It turns out to be the leather sack he had gotten from killing each of the bodyguards. Placing the 4 sacks together would allow it to transform into one large mask, and if Vikir remembers it correctly, and he did, turns into the mask of degeneracy called picaresque, which has fratricide, which means killing one's own kind, and degeneracy stats. Vikir couldn't believe that he had gotten a relic that rivals the demon sword Beelzebub in his hands. He had read all about this thing before his regression. This is a mask that gets stronger as the wearer kills more of his kind. It is said that the more humans you kill with this mask on, the more powerful you become. On top of that, it would allow the wearer to gain insane resilience and mana regeneration. Feeling a sense of adventure, Vikir decides to try it on, even after knowing that there were some sort of side effects that come with the mask. A sudden surge of power started to be seen from his eyes the moment he placed the mask on his face. Vikir could feel its power. His health and aura, which had been depleted from the fight with Dantalion, were immediately restored. Its power was different from the Swamp March salamander skill he had stored in Beelzebub, which could only help with lost limbs. The mask helps Vikir to recover from fatigue as well. But something weird was going on. Looking around where he was, our boy felt that something was off about his situation. Taking a look at the table and bag from before, he started to wonder why everything in his eyes started to look bigger. Not only that, everything he sees so far is in white and black, no colors. Instead of words coming out from his mouth, a small and cute woof noise came out of a little puppy who was seen where Vikir was sitting last time. Our boy realized it. He had turned into a dog and guessed that this was the side effect from the mask. I mean, it makes sense. He comes from the Baskerville family, which is filled with people having dog names in their own names. Feeling the panic and trouble in his situation, our boy started to run around in circles, in dog form, thinking about how bad it was going to be if he can't return back to normal. He needed to get the mask off his face somehow. As soon as he thought about how to get the mask off his face, it came out on its own, reverting Vikir back into human form as he stood naked as the day he was born inside his room. As part of the fan service, I'll let you guys stare at this specimen for a few more seconds. After removing the mask from his face, Vikir was glad to discover that it comes off his face when he thinks that he wants it removed. Looking at it as it laid on the ground, the side effect of being turned into a dog when he wanted was now a perk to Vikir. Thankfully, in the academy, there was no rule saying that students couldn't keep animals in the dorms, so this perk could help him in sneaking around without suspicion. But as he was thinking about how to use the side effect to his advantage, a cracking sound could be heard. Vikir could sense it coming from the bag, grabbing his attention. He takes out the Madam Eight Legs egg, which is now cracked. Seeing that it was cracking, Vikir recalled how the egg had moved back then. It was a sign that it was about to hatch. Knowing about Madam Eight Legs, who is a high-ranking monster that Vikir almost died multiple times to while fighting against it, he knew that even the ancient demons that command hell didn't want to fight against this queen, so they decided to give her a place to live in the depths instead. And yet, in his hand, the descendant of that monstrous queen was about to hatch. As soon as he thought of it hatching, a little spider came out from the egg, barking out sounds like a dog for some reason. Vikir stares at it, and couldn't believe that this little cotton ball is the madam's descendant, and was confused on why it was barking at him. The little cotton ball continued to bark and make dog noises, leading Vikir to believe that it learnt to do it when it was being held by a wolf. Soon enough, the little spider started to signal something at Vikir with its sad eyes while moving its body sideways. Our boy took it as it was trying to say that it was hungry. Placing a piece of meat on the table instead of eating it, the little spider started to shake its head in refusal. Seeing its reaction to the meat, Vikir guessed that it might be too young to eat meat like the madam. Even so, he finds it as a win. Getting to own an S-rank monster from the dense forest is a good opportunity for him. Seeing how the little spider couldn't eat anything in the room, Vikir decides to head out and look for some food. But as he was roaming the corridors of the academy, a voice caught his attention. Someone was scolding, saying that a commoner shouldn't muddy the academy's waters. Hiding behind a pillar, Vikir spots a group of bullies surrounding our boy PG. Watching the situation closely, Vikir spots his friend in trouble and slowly recognizes the people bothering him. The main bully turns out to be Grenouille de Leviathan of the Fire Corps, who comes from the poison-wielding Leviathans, one of the 7 pillars that make up the Empire. He's known as a top student of the Fire Corps freshman, and he's exceedingly proud of his status. All this information was given by PG, our human dictionary of information. Sensing trouble brewing, the human dictionary makes the right move, smoothly sailing away from the bullies and using the excuse that his friends were in the toilet and waiting for him to get away from them. But one of the bullies stopped him from exiting, telling him that a commoner shouldn't be going away so simply. Grenouille appears and calls him worthless, speaking about how he was just a low-rank expert, and that just his mere presence in the school was enough to annoy him. He also finds it an insult that someone like him, a member of the 7 great families of the Empire, has to walk in the same halls as a commoner low-born peasant like PG. With a disgusted and arrogant look on his face, the main bully declares to PG that he didn't belong in the academy, and that he should leave it immediately. He even goes as far to say that the people PG hangs out with were probably at the same pathetic level as he was. Hearing those words, something awakens in the timid young boy, his eyes filled with a profound sense of rage as he grabs Grenouille by the collar, startling the bully, as he didn't expect this from a mere commoner. With fury in his words, PG holds him up, telling the bully not to insult his friends as he did before. Feeling more annoyed than ever, Grenouille wonders what PG was going to do about them, and turns to the others, ordering them to make a mess of our boy. Immediately taking on the orders, one of the bullies goes straight for a punch to PG's face, who could only close his eyes as the incoming fist was coming for him. But as he waited for the fist to hit his face, nothing seemed to happen, so he slowly opened his eyes to see what was going on. Tudor had appeared in front of him, holding the bully's fist in one of his hands while asking PG if he was all right. Soon enough, a muscular hand filled with veins appears and grabs the top of the other bully, who could feel it, as a sweat drop appears on the side of his face. Sancho appears as well, with red glowing demonic eyes. He grips the head of the bully tightly, causing him to scream in pain while telling them that if they wanted a fight, then they had chosen the wrong person. PG couldn't believe that Tudor and Sancho were here to save him, and after turning around, he could see that even Vikir had appeared to help him out. Grenouille was annoyed to see Tudor La Mancha Don Quixote intervening in his plans as the bullies were regrouping themselves. Tudor, Sancho and Vikir had gathered onto PG's side as well. They found it weird that their little boy was taking too long, and didn't expect to find him in this situation. All 3 of the Gigachads were now officially pissed off, knowing that there was someone in the academy that dared to lay their hands on their precious companion.